always think we need some good HousingWire jam music when we start these off. Maybe it's the wish I was a musician in me, but insert fun background music here as we wait for our attendees to join us. Excited for everyone to, start off their Wednesday, or maybe if you're on Eastern time, you're kind of closing out your day. I know within just our own little virtual event cohort that we have right now, we range from Mountain Time, which I think is the forgotten time zone, to Central Time, all the way to Pacific Time. So I'll give everyone a few more seconds to kind of get started. But like I said, just pretend there's some fun, hold music in, and hope, Arjun, Logan, Kate, that your days are going well too as we wait. Okay, I'll go ahead and kick us off. For those who don't know me, I'm Brenna Nath. I'm the Director of Events and HU Plus here at HousingWire. What that really means is I oversee our community, and I want to make sure that you, our attendees, are feeling like you have a voice in our community, that you have access to the resources that you need, and that you feel really plugged in, which was the intention of the first and all three of our virtual event playbooks. It's to give you a glimpse into what we're going to be discussing in person at HousingWire Annual, October 10th through 12th in Austin, Texas. So feel free to join us there. But to help you have knowledge on what to expect there. Who are these speakers? You keep saying powerhouse leaders, but who are these powerhouse leaders at HousingWire Annual in person? These playbook series are to address that question, and also just be an extra bonus for you guys to ask the questions that you need to know. I mean, to state the obvious, right now it is October 2nd, and our event is 2 months away, and a lot can happen in this industry in 2 months. So if anything, this is just to give you a preview of the expertise, knowledge that they could have. And then come October, I'm sure there's something else that we also just need to adjust. And the big point that I like to emphasize with our speakers at HousingWire Annual is they've been through their fair share of cycle ups and cycle downs. So they can speak to all markets. So things that they apply now, they'll have even better, more knowledge on how to address the market come October and into 2024. So with that, I would like to go ahead and just give a few housekeeping items. The first one being, we are recording this webinar, so feel free to, if you need to drop off, if you want to take notes or share it with your team members later, we'll be sending a copy of the webinar, the virtual event, to your email after the fact, or you can also navigate to housingwire.com into our main navigation bar, and you can find our webinar recording there as well. And then secondly, I just wanted to say, if you stay tuned to the end, we have a special discount code for anyone who does want to join HousingWire Annual in person. So stay tuned for the end. I'll be sharing more information there. But without further ado, I've talked enough, and the point is not to have me chat the whole time, but I want to introduce our amazing three panelists. This is a roundtable discussion. So you'll see a Q&A feature down below. There's also a chat. Feel free to drop in your questions. There are three great experts in their field and in their markets and know the industry. So the goal is that we are going to create an open conversation for you guys to also submit your questions. So first, we have our own Logan Mohtashami. He serves as the lead analyst at HousingWire. Logan, thank you so much for joining us.
It is my pleasure, of course.
And next, we have the wonderful Arjun Dhingra. He is overseas sales and business development at All Western Mortgage. So excited to have you here, Arjun.
I'm pumped, Brenna. Thank you.
And to round us out, another amazing expert who I've had the pleasure of chatting with, along with these other two, leading up this call to figure out and understand more from my end, the amazing knowledge that she brings to the industry. And that is Kate Amor. She is the Senior Vice President and Head of Enterprise Products over at Guaranteed Rate. Kate, thank you so much for joining us this Wednesday.
Excited to be here.
Okay, so I want to give everyone some background on these three panelists. The way this discussion is framed, and something that we've played these playbooks as, is, the next two that we have are on leadership. This one really wanted to focus on data. Anyone who read Logan knows that he is our housing market tracker. He keeps in mortgage rates, inventory, all of that. And so Kate and Arjun help show, okay, Logan, this is what's happening in the mortgage industry. What does this mean for how we apply to this to our business? How do we distill this information and create tangible, actionable, or strategic business moves on what's happening in the market to be agile, flexible, nimble, and so forth? So with that, knowing that Kate and Arjun can speak to it, I wanted to set the discussion up with Logan, starting with inventory. That's a big topic. If you look at any of his headlines on the website, inventory is a big deal. So Logan, starting broad, can you paint a picture of where inventory stands right now?
Inventory is still savagely unhealthy. Active listings in America, we're going to give you the single family homes. These are the homes that are just available for sale. They're not impending or anything in that nature. It's 484,000 as of last week. That's all we have in a country of 335 million. But the real painful thing is new listings data, which took another downfall toward the middle part of last year. New listings data is trending at the lowest levels ever recorded in U.S. history for the last 12 months. So we have these weekly updates, and last week we had 62,000 new listings come to the market. But when you have total active listings near all-time lows, new listings data at all-time lows, what happens is if demand is stable, like we have seen, it's no longer the crashy market of 2022, homes get off the market very quickly. The NAR data, days on market, to give you some example, normally it's between 30 to 45 days. Back in 2011, it was 101 days. Just this last month, it was 18 days. I kind of have a rule of thumb. Whenever it's a teenager, it's not good, right? You want people to have choices. And unfortunately, we just don't have a lot of product out there. And the new listings data trending at all-time lows does not help at all in that.
I like that call out. You don't want a teenager.
Yes, no, you want them in college or in their 30s, but the problem with having anything in a teenager is that you either have a massive credit boom that's not allowing people to buy homes in a more normal marketplace, or you just have too many people chasing too few homes. And that's what we have currently. During the housing bubble years, we had a massive credit and sales boom. We had a credit bust. Here, there's just not a lot of homes. Just to give you an example, in this week, back in 2015, we had 1.2 million active listings available, single family homes. Now we're at 484. Seasonality is about to kick in a few months. So yeah, we're just dealing with not enough product out there for the American public.
And I know when I was, you are constantly giving us the latest on the news. And recently, it seemed like there was a little bit more glimmer of hope in the headlines that there was going to be a small growth in inventory before. I think a lot of us are, those who have kids, prepping for the school year to start. So kind of grieving the loss of summer as we head forward. And we know that the fall market tends to slow down, but it seems like we had a small glimmer of growth in inventory. Can you expand on that a little bit? More of that to come?
Active listings is very seasonal. You usually get the spring and summer increase every single year. The problem happened with this year is that total inventory seasonal bottom was April 14th. That is very abnormal. Usually it's January or February. So we were getting increases. I was actually hoping for more, but it's just been so slow that I call it the walking dead of inventory. It's like a slow zombie trying to walk out of its grave. It's just not enough velocity. And like, for example, I'd love to see 11 to 17,000 weekly active listings every single week. I have not gotten that at all this year. So we've had the inventory growth is just not as fast. Some weeks we have less than 1,000. Some actually went negative. So it's not a functioning market on the active listing side. And we all have to remember, we keep housing different than stocks. Sellers are buyers, right? Somebody lists their home, majority of the time they buy another one. So when new listings data is trending at all-time lows, that doesn't help either. So we did see the inventory growth. I was hoping for more, and we got about a few months left before active listings does its traditional fall and winter decline. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Too many people chasing too few homes.
Yep. I was writing up your and looking at your session description, your keynote for HousingWire Annual, and I was digging through your articles, and I was kind of building a timeline of this market so people could see just how wild, Logan's session is called Making Sense of the Wild Housing Data 2023. And it was end of February. It was like, we're out of the savagely unhealthy housing market. And then we got to, I think, the end of April, and it was like, is it coming back? And then we got to June, and it was like, it's here. And I'm like, yeah, it's just in 4 months.
It's an unfortunate, the savagely unhealthy housing market theme was something that I brought in February of 2022. 75% of the homes on the market were getting multiple bids. That's not a good thing. We want people to have choices and not bid against each other. So active listings, this is an honest truth. Last March, we only had 240,000 single family homes for people to buy. Again, in a country of 335 million with over 156 million people working, That is savagely unhealthy. It's not that demand is falling off a cliff. So the days on market was at 33 days in January. I was so happy. I was like, okay, if the days on market is over 30, I'm good. And then it brought me back in again because the days on market came a teenager again. It's back-to-back months of being a teenager. So I'm not getting what I want, boring and balanced. Unfortunately, we're in this chaotic time, the whirlwind of the US housing market post-COVID.
So as I mentioned at the beginning of this event, so Logan just set the scene, as he mentioned. That's a lot to digest on what's happening in the housing market. And as I just framed, that's all in just a short amount of time. We just moved into month 8 of the housing market. So Kate, switching now from your seat as this product expert at a big lender, what are you seeing on how this housing data that Logan kind of just shared is then impacting affordability across all life stages? And you and I talked about this leading into this conversation that even this could be something you have to, add to your answer, not to speak for you, but affordability, I think the definition has changed. We're not just talking about low to moderate income. Affordability is in helping your millennial who wants to get in a home. It's impacting your Gen Z who's wanting to get a home. Affordability is now goes way beyond even just low to moderate. So how are you seeing this housing data play across and impact affordability across all life stages?
Oh, I totally agree with you. I think affordability is really something that's hitting everyday Americans and Main Street America. But I would really say there's like four main groups when I think about it. There's obviously the first-time home buyer, right, who's been priced out, especially in the 50% AMI, area median income segment. We've really seen that fall off a cliff, which has been unfortunate. Trade up borrowers who are going to be kind of locked in. Basically, they don't want to do anything until rates get under 5. And we're seeing like a lot of cooling off in the jumbo market as well. Credit's tightening, liquidity is tightening over there with the regional bank things that have been happening. And then if we take it and just add another step on it, then there's of course people who are wanting to retire and looking to think through, like, am I downsizing, right sizing? Am I moving to my penthouse suite in Maui? And so there's all those, at least that's my plan. There's all these different ways in which, people are being impacted by that. And we're having to come up with creative solutions to help get them into houses. You're just seeing a lot of different people struggling to make those payments.
Yeah. And then I think that the next step in that question then is, okay, if that's how all stages are looking, and to your point, I look at my own aunt and uncle who are like my grandparents, or my parents' age, they're still in their first time home buyer home. I'm like, hey, that's inventory we need. Go move to your penthouse in Maui. Go on vacation. And I'm sure that's something I think a lot of people are looking at. So the next level in that question that I'd love to ask, and as a reminder for anyone here, feel free to submit your own questions, which is what are lenders doing to address the low inventory, then how they look at the products? So what are the products that are being introduced to address this?
No, totally. And so, just at the highest level from the product perspective, I think it's important to be thinking through down payment assistance or to different types of features that can help impact payment. And then, of course, one of my personal favorites, which is reverse mortgages, are an amazing opportunity for people to not have to make payments and to be able to stay in a house with as little as 40% down. I mean, these are just awesome products and programs that can really help make a difference for more people, in addition to being more creative about the way we look at income. But when I look and think about, like, what do we do with housing supply, I think this is a great opportunity for our industry to have a conversation about converting commercial properties to residential. Do we have an opportunity to look at more manufactured housing, modular housing? I know we keep talking about it as an industry, but what are we doing to end some of that stigma in the credit sector? And really, what can we do around renovation lending? I keep thinking renovation is going to take off, but I have not seen renovation for a first lien transaction just really be like, yay.
That's a great point. And that's, I think, you talk about data point. I don't know, Logan, if you have any data there, but that is something that I've watched is when you look at the entire scheme of the inventory out there for housing, how much of it is eligible for that specific loan type, like the renovation loan, the loan that maybe if it maybe some of the really old homes that still have lead-based paint and can be switched. So I think there, to your point, where is the inventory? And one of those renovation is a great call out. But Logan, I don't mean to put you on the spot. If you have anything to add there on where that stands.
There's about 14 to 15 million vacant homes in America. Of course, some of them are vacation homes, second homes, things that cannot be used for inventory for sale. But what we have seen is that there are investors that go into some of these homes that need major renovation, and they do provide a livable house after. I think that's one area that we're fortunate in, that we do have people that are willing to do that, because there are just some homes that just cannot be inhabited, and there's supply there, but of course they only do it to make a profit. So if it's any kind of product or anything that can facilitate the rehabs of older homes that are just you can't live in them, would be a positive at this point. Again, when you only have 484,000 single family homes with 335 million people living, it's an issue. So anything helps at this stage.
Yeah, that makes sense. And just got one question. And if you three, if not, David, happy to also just address it later, depending if Arjun or Kate, you think you for this one, which is, that next level, if we have a whole bunch of home equity in the market, is there investor appetite for those in the secondary market for those home equity loans? Do you guys have any input there?
There is appetite for home equity loans now, because nobody's going to do a cash out refinance with rates at 7%. And there's also a big cash out hit as well. So naturally, because home equity lines were not being distributed, a lot of people did cash out loans during COVID. That's going to grow, right? Just the Google searches or just the growth in this data line is going to pick up, because no one's going to touch their first mortgage and ruin it just for an extra 30 or 40,000. So there is growth in this sector, because the nested equity, just to give everybody some numbers, home values are $43 trillion in the United States of America. That's dwarfs China's entire economy. 30 trillion of that is free and clear. Right. So there's 13 trillion of debt. There's 30 trillion free and clear. 42% of homes in America don't have a mortgage. Right. So those people can access anything. So there should be still a lot of growth left in the home equity line business.
Yeah.
We see it on the retail front for sure. Like I've seen a massive uptick in the last 60 days of people. So the product is there. And to Logan's point, exactly. They're not going to touch their existing mortgage because they have a historically low rate, and they'd be foolish to do so. So home equity lines have become are going to, I think, only increase in popularity. Yeah.
And I would love to go a level deeper with you, Arjun. So like you just mentioned, what you're seeing people find interest in. So knowing that, like, you have this specialty in taking the weekly data from Logan, almost bi-weekly, 3 times a week sometimes, and distilling it so others can grow their market share and grow their business. So how are you taking a lot of the data that Logan's sharing and saying, here's how you distill this down, digest it, and deploy it to really, I think, help change the narrative in the market? Like, we're all very aware that it's a down market, but there's still business to be had. There are homes for sale. So how are you using this data to then help people grow their market share and like be strategic?
I think the common and sometimes the more popular, although it's not authentic, route for people to take and create excitement online or awareness is to fearmonger and not have anything backed by data or numbers. Yeah. And that's where I had actually got connected with Logan through a mutual friend who was in private capital. He says, you need to follow this guy because this is literally the smartest man in the country when it comes to housing. And I had been in the business for a while. And so I was just getting started with creating an online presence and putting out content. And I thought, okay, so I started following. And the first thing, of course, I noticed that he has amazing hair. And the second thing was that this guy is incredibly sharp, but he very much sticks to data and he backs everything up. And I love what Logan always says about that. And that, I'll debate anyone, anytime, anywhere. Bring your facts, bring your data, and you won't be able to stand up. So knowing that HousingWire and Logan and the resources that are here can provide that type of information to you, then us as knowledge brokers, which is what I want to, try and get lenders to start viewing themselves as, information brokers, taking the data and taking the numbers, which we all understand and we love to geek out over, but then how do we take that and translate it to the marketplace? How do we make this sexy? How do we make this appealing? And that's where the science comes in at it. And I'm by no means an expert. I'm a work in progress, but I'm fascinated by it, in taking what people are afraid of and taking this data, translating it, and then addressing that. It's a massive opportunity for originators to become knowledge brokers, because there's so much BS out there. It's absolute literal garbage. And the audience is there because if you look at the garbage and you see the traction it gets and how many people are actually watching this stuff, there are people with their hands in the air that are thirsty for anything. So if you step into a microphone and you can make things appealing, which is what I try and do, and basically answer the question of what does this mean for you? How are you going to do something with this? And really dumb it down. And I've got a phrase that I talk to a lot of our fellow marketers and everyone, that you don't want to talk to a boardroom, you want to talk to a classroom, which means really dumb this down. So take all of this high level information that is sophisticated and it's backed by numbers and data, and it doesn't lie, right? That Logan gives you, or that like analysts will provide you, or resources from HousingWire, then translate it, answer that question of what does this mean for you? What can you do with this as a consumer, as someone who wants to become more financially literate, more economically literate, more housing literate, and then make that connection. And I think instead of speaking to boardrooms on a sophisticated level, but you talk to classrooms, meaning you dumb it down, that is the key with all this. So that's what I really try and make an effort with doing with this information.
That's a great line. I might steal that. Talk to the classroom, not the boardroom, because one of our Mike Simonson, who is a president of Altos, the title of his session at HousingWire Annual, which I think maybe the word vibe has been top of mind for me lately, but his title is less vibes, more data. And I think that's what you're saying. Like, start going off the vibe. Like, I think, I feel like the market's doing this. Like, no, we have actual data out there. Here's how you can take that and share it to potential leads. Is that to go a level deeper with you, Arjun? In those conversations, like I've been chatting with other, some of our HU Plus members on that, how they've used that as a strategic tactic to even differentiate themselves among real estate professionals. So they can even say, hey, real estate professional, I know that you're seeing a lot of these things, but here's a weekly newsletter that I'm sending you that actually helps you then go to the buyer and properly account what's happening into the market based on data. So are there any other, like strategic tactic ways that you've taken that to even maybe help you with real estate professionals, to help your team with real estate professionals, anything like that?
Well, I think you take the data and you recognize that amidst all this fear mongering and chaos and doom and gloom that's being spelled out there everywhere, that you have an opportunity to be this light and be optimistic and actually present the opportunity. Because as Logan has said, and I've stolen his line and used it in content piece after content piece, people still need shelter. It's never going out of style. They're still going to date, they're going to mate, they're going to have children. Housing is a commodity it's not going away. We're not selling luxury vehicles or Tupperware or encyclopedias. I just really dated myself because we had encyclopedias growing up, but that's not what we're selling here, right? This is housing. It's a commodity that everybody needs, and shelter never goes out. So taking that and recognizing that there's a massive opportunity there, and you can be optimistic because there's opportunity in every market. High rates, low rates, mid rates, it's always out there. It's just a matter of analyzing the data, translating it in a way that dispels fear and clears up myths and avoids confusion, because it can get very confusing. And people will take you down some very dark alleyways with that data and information, which is very manipulative. But if you present it clearly, you'll actually find, as an originator, as a sales manager, as a team leader, you will attract all kinds of conversation, because people are thirsty for something that's nice and optimistic and happy instead of doom and gloom. I know it sells doom and gloom and it gets clicks, but you'll actually do business and create and forge much stronger relationships if you present the opportunity. And that's what there is. There's a massive opportunity out there right now for people in this marketplace, if it's the right timing for them, of course.
Yeah. What I just heard you saying, which I think is such a great piece of advice that I wanted to reiterate, because I do think a lot of today is mindset, that it is important that you surround yourself with people who are going to help be positive and show you that there is growth out there. Because there is that mindset part of it. I don't want to get too, cliche in that, but I mean, everything you're just saying is based on, who you surround yourself with. There's still business to be had, be positive, and then also root yourself in the data, which is positive. So I think it's great 100%. Advice that you just kind of was in that as well.
Yep, absolutely.
So we opened the conversation with inventory. I'd say, sister, cousin, brother to that top topic is mortgage rates. That's the other like I said, I was going through Logan's articles earlier today, and even just the themes in mortgage rates slightly going down at the beginning of the year, and then how they've shifted. And so another thing that's constantly changing that impacts everyone's day-to-day and how they're strategically planning. So Logan, back to you. Instead of inventory this time, can you dive into mortgage rates and what you're seeing happen, and maybe even some thoughts on where you think it's headed?
So when I look at mortgage rates, I look at the bond market first, and to talk to the classroom, the old high school basketball coach of me says, we got to teach the kids. Where the 10-year yield goes, the mortgage rates typically would follow. So you have to find the relationship of what leads the bond market. And for this year, I thought mortgage rates would be higher than a lot of people would have had with inflation falling, just because the labor market is still very good. But we're kind of getting to the upper end of my mortgage rate range. So usually what occurs in those moments is that we bounce off of that and mortgage rates can fall lower. Whenever mortgage rates fall, demand picks up. After 2010, we've seen this time and time again. One of the reasons why we stabilized in housing is, on October 27th, we wrote the article for HousingWire, the case for lower mortgage rates. The bond market was getting crazy. There was all this market drama last year, but then 10-year yields started to fall, mortgage rates fall. November, December, January, we had 3 months of positive purchase application growth. It gave us one of the biggest month-to-month sales reports ever in history. We almost had 600,000 homes bought in 1 month. There is demand there, right? Economics is demographics. We have the best housing demographics ever right now in this period. Millennials ages 28 to 35 are the biggest in US history. You put move-up buyers, move-down buyers, cash buyers, investors, you put them all together. You have great replacement buyers. But rates, when they go up, demand gets hit. When they fall, demand gets better. But that demographic buyer is there. So if we can not break out on this range, head back lower, purchase apps should get better. And I don't usually believe in the pent-up demand theory, but because we have so many people that want to buy homes, when mortgage rates fall, there's going to be a rush, right? There's going to be people that are been waiting and waiting. A lot of people talk about, well, when mortgage rates get in the 5s, then I'll start coming in. You think about all the demand that has just basically sat back in the last 12 to 18 months. When rates fall, we have seen this time and time again after 2010. Demand will pick up. Mortgage rates are kind of at the higher end level. It should go lower over time. That'll be a positive for the US. It'll be positive for the housing market, positive for mortgage and real estate. And then everybody gets to do what they want. Housing is the cost of shelter to your own capacity to own a debt. People rent, they date, they mate, they get married 3.5 years after marriage, they have kids. People live in homes. We're pretty normal people. That's how we forecast economics. The demographics are good. People do need to move up. They need to move down. So the demand is always there. It's really rare in America to have existing home sales basically trend under 4 million. We're kind of near that level. So we're kind of in the bottom end range of what we see. So there's upside there, and there's reasons for upside to get better.
I like that quote. There's upside there, and there's reason for the upside to get better. One follow-up question for you, Logan, from David. If we get to the 5% interest rate range, what are inventory inspections?
This is the problem with the housing market. When rates fall, traditionally, we don't get more active inventory growth. What we have seen is that active inventory really only grows when we have weakness in demand and days on market growth. So there is going to be a problem again when we have total active listings this low. People can list their homes, buy, sell. Remember, sellers are buyers right there. So the inventory is a wash. The problem with lower mortgage rates and inventory is that the first-time home buyer does not give you a home. So you have a wash on sales, sellers and buyers, and then you have the first-time home buyer who will try to get in. That's going to be a problem with inventory. This is why lower mortgage rates do not create more active listings, like some people say. They usually stall out inventory, or inventory goes lower. So there is a problem if rates go back down again, but it does provide demand, because supply is a function of demand in housing. That person lists their home, 75 to 82% of the times they buy another one, right? So even though it's a wash, sales grow, demand picks up. We saw that in 2020 and 2021. So lower rates will do the trick, but it'll also bring more sellers, more buyers, then more first-time home buyers. So we're kind of stuck here in this low inventory until we can get more active listings to grow. Now, if we want to look at the NAR data going back to 1982, historically, we're between 2 to 2.5 million active listings. The only time in history really that we broke out of that was 2005 to 2007. We had 4 million active listings in 2007. Today, as we speak, the NAR data, it's a little bit above 1 million. So you can see the issues we have with inventory. When rates fall, again, that's a problem, but rates falling will bring you more demand, more sales.
No, that's a great way to set kind of where inventory expectations will lie. As we move, that was 30 minutes worth of really great data. As we enter these kind of last 4 questions, I think help take a lot of what we're sharing even further. As a reminder, in these last 15 minutes, I wanted to make sure to keep this nice and concise for everybody to hear the knowledge. Feel free to drop in more questions as we go. But that said, I wanted to take the mortgage rate conversation that Logan just laid out. And in a lot of the conversations I've had with our HousingWire speakers and our industry and our members is, as you have rising rates, the other 2 words that go hand in hand for lenders, is profitability, trying to grow margins, stuff like that, that margin revenue profit world. So Kate, the question I would pose to you is, what advice would you give to lenders who are trying to deliver this diversity of product, as they're trying to capture market share? It's like maybe even just in your last answer, you mentioned renovation, reverse, there's a wealth of products that lenders could go into. So what advice would you give them when they're trying to balance costs at the same time? You can't just launch new product as super easily,
No, I completely agree with that. So I got 3 main things I think about when thinking about, managing cost. And the first is going to be one of my personal favorites, which is like digital mortgage. Super invested in digital mortgage, being smart. How can you have technology working for you? We have our same day mortgage product at guaranteed rate that's been amazing and has absolute, we've had really great success with that. I also think it's important to be smart with your dollars. Products can be both a profit center and a loss leader, and you need to do your research to know the difference and to do a cost benefit analysis when looking at various different products in order to make that decision about where you want to spend your scarce resources. And then my last piece with it is having a thoughtful and proactive product strategy. I think you need to sit down and think through what's important to you, your market, your area, the geography that you're in, the product mix and customers that you're serving, and have an actual plan on it that's based on what you think is going to make sense for your business, so that you're not being reactive and kind of chasing what everyone else is doing. I'm a firm believer that having a strategy, a plan, and going after that and incrementally accomplishing that goal and determining which products you're going to invest in really is going to help you be successful when looking at all these different options. So it's really going to be something that's customized for what makes sense for you, and doing the research around it.
Yep, that makes sense. And then that other side, I like that 3-step process that you kind of just laid out. So that gives the lender angle. And then looking at Arjun, how are you taking the rising rate conversation and then talking to LOs on how do they talk about that? How do they talk about that with agents? How do they, even what we were talking about earlier, stay positive on even though rates are rising, or even with the future of it? Maybe a lot of it is even uncertainty. Like, should I wait? Should I hold out? Is there something better coming along? Maybe a lot of us are on the edge of the seat. So what do you see the focus of strategy being depending on where rates are?
Yeah, I think it's all about reframing, because too many originators, many of them newer, and this is just by conditioning of what they see and what's in the media and maybe what they were told, is that they associate a healthy housing market with low rates. So if low rates are good, that means that housing is healthy, or that means that the market is great. And as Logan has coined the phrase, and again, I steal it all the time, there was nothing really that great systemically about the market that we left. It was savagely unhealthy. Now we're, obviously bordering on it again for some other metrics. So I tell, lenders, and even myself in bringing things to market, it's about the opportunity we have now. You don't want to be longing for different days, even as a real estate professional, and saying, I wish we had lower rates. I wish we had more inventory. The market is the market. So taking what you have right now, and what is the silver lining in all this, or what is the positive byproduct of whatever we have? Because there's always a positive byproduct with data points wherever we are, no matter how upsetting they may be, there's something on the other side of the coin. So for lenders to translate that and then take that and say, look, what are higher rates getting you right now? Right. And they're temporary, right? Because the average person refinances every 3 to 5 years. Nobody holds a mortgage for 30 years. The truth in lending statement is so misleading. And I was on the phone with a buyer about it this morning. So nobody holds it long. So knowing that, and knowing that it's just a placeholder, right? It's easy to fix it on, but just let's think about it this way. What is that getting you? It's getting you less competition. It's probably not forcing you to overpay or overbid for a house. You can strike some concessions. You can do this. This is a word that wasn't said for years. Negotiate. That wasn't even like allowed in anyone's vocabulary in housing over the last few years. So you can actually do these things. So there's a lot of opportunity and things that come with these higher rates. And I think if lenders take that rather than dwell, and apologizing for the market, apologizing for these low rate or these higher rates is nothing you should do. You should actually say, this is actually creating a big opportunity for you. And here's what that is. Or here's why the last few years were super frustrating for you. And I think we can actually turn the corner because of this. Taking that to the market, again, you'd be so surprised at what that's actually going to drum up for you as an originator. So that's how we're framing the rising rate discussion. We're actually very much embracing it and saying this is a massive, massive opportunity. It's also super temporary because to Logan's point, when rates come down, what are you going to get? You're going to get more buyers back into the market. Bidding wars will ensue. We still have nothing that's going to disrupt and somehow create all kinds of new inventory. So what are you going to get back to? A market similar, maybe not exactly, but similar to the one that we left. So seize the opportunity now. And that's where originators, I think, can really, really strike gold if you just apply yourself.
Negotiate definitely is not a word that's been around. So to your point here, you just listed out the pros that come with this market. It's that reframing of like, look at the past years, you were probably bidding against 20 people. This is what you didn't have in your toolkit, and your real estate agent, your lender didn't have. And this is how that narrative changed in this new market. One thing you said that kind of draws into a question for Kate that we got, which, Arjun, you just said, no one holds a mortgage for 30 years. But at the same time, a growing topic that we've been writing on HousingWire is this new 40-year mortgage. So Kate, a question for you was, have you seen any appetite around that, especially in the context that Arjun just set? What have you been seeing with borrowers?
Listen, I think the 40-year mortgage absolutely has a place for people who are payment sensitive, and I think it makes sense. Now, one of the things to remember right now is that the 40-year mortgage is still considered non-QM, thus is subject to non-QM pricing. And so where the current arb is between non-QM pricing and then say like a conforming loan that you could get right now, 40-year pricing has not come down enough where it makes sense if somebody's going to qualify for prime pricing that they would move over into a non-QM product. Now, if you're looking at somebody who's already an amazing non-QM borrower, that's their product, it's going to be perfect for them. 40-year may absolutely be the right choice for that borrower to be put in. So it's really going to come down to a question of there's demand, but it's the elasticity of that demand relative to its rate, price, payment, that we always are going to have to be weighing. And we can definitely let Logan talk about that because he could probably speak way more eloquently. However, that's, I think, something everyone has to keep in mind is that when we create unusual product features or new product features, they usually come with a cost associated with them. And it's just going to be a question of whether you have alignment between that borrower's need and the price of that feature.
Arjun, I see you nodding along. Anything you'd want to add to that, is what you're seeing?
No, Kate summarized it beautifully. While it's out there, the reality is that it just may not be what it's been intended to do or what it's intended to create quite yet. Things will change in the future. So I think everyone needs to kind of just maintain perspective. It's great to see more products coming to the market. And then also, despite credit tightening, but product actually coming out and things expanding in that sense is a very healthy sign for housing, right? We didn't have this in a way. We had products being taken off the table. It was limited to just a couple, right? And now we have so many different spaces. Sure, it might be a little bit tougher to qualify, but it should be, right? And the health of the current homeowner and mortgage holder is as strong as it's ever been. And that's a very, very good sign for housing in general. And it shows that, everyone's on the right side of this. So I think those opportunities will continue to come up. And it's a nice thing to see that a product like that is coming to market. And when it gets more competitive in pricing and those spreads change a little bit, and we'll see some more appeal in it. But at an initial observation of it and the fact that it's here, it's a great thing.
That Logan kind of leads well into my last question for you. And the reason I say it leads into as we wrap is because you can either, if you want to add more thoughts onto that question, or you can go your own direction, because my wrap up question for you was, the reason we have HousingWire Annual in October is because that really is a starting line for the future year. It's not, while I'm all about New Year's resolutions, is a lot of us are already in the thick of planning of what does 2024 look like and beyond. And so given that, what do you think are any other data points that you would call out, or even maybe some extra thoughts that you'd touch on and add to what Kate and Arjun just said? Feel free to go whatever direction you want to.
So one of the things that we saw last year is that when rates spiked up, buy downs, seller credits to get mortgage rates lower worked. As the market stabilized, that was not being offered as much. The home builders are offering, sub 6% mortgage rates and moving product. So there are ways for creative people to negotiate deals for your clients, or talk about that process, because we've seen that happen when needed, and the builders are using it to sell their homes that they might have issues with. But going out in the future, again, we want to see, of course, inventory is going to be low. You want to keep an eye on the labor market. Labor market gets softer, rates are going to start to get better. You most likely are going to have to get ahead of that for your clients. All right. So this is why we train people to track data. So you have an understanding, and, my job is to destroy as many housing bubble boys as I possibly can. This is year 12 for me. So the broken clock is secured. They are going to be one of the worst groups ever, but everyone has the ability to talk to people. When I do these live events, I show these charts and I say, listen, take your cell phone, snap this photo. Doesn't that chart look beautiful? Explain this to your borrowers, why this isn't 2008. Get their mindset off of that, because really this is their biggest financial decision. And it's also going to be something they're going to be in for a very long time. Fixed debt costs, rising wages. It's something I say year in and year out. That's what housing is. Why is housing the best hedge against inflation? Because even in an inflationary environment, guess what? Your wages grow faster, but your debt cost stays the same. What's the best way to fight the Federal Reserve? Was to have been a homeowner. These things don't go away ever. They're always there. So there's a way to talk to your clients in a way that shows the benefit. The reason the 30-year mortgage was created in America was to give people fixed debt costs, wages rise, a really good a deal, because your housing cost doesn't go up, right? It becomes less as your wage rise. So talk to your clients, give them an idea of what structurally is different now, put them at ease, make some deals and get things done, because there's going to be near 5 million total home sales this year, right? So it's not like their demand just has fallen off a cliff, but it's your responsibility to get things done. Information always helps.
My favorite, gauge in life to make sure that I'm hitting all the metrics of growth is, am I following Logan's timelines in life? So, I bought a house when he said I would. I had a baby when I said he would. And then my other thing is I bought a house to fight inflation. So wanted to make Logan proud that I'm hitting all the metrics I'm supposed to. But along those same lines, Kate, Arjun, maybe Kate, starting with you, I wanted to also pose that question to you both, looking at it from a lender's perspective. So as you both are looking ahead towards the future in 2024, what are some of the things that you're watching? Kate, you can start.
Sure. I'm super watching the Basel III. Like, I am excited to see what happens with that. I think that could represent an interesting opportunity for us, especially in the IMB space. When one door closes, another opens. And depending on how that plays out, I think it could be really interesting to see what type of innovation it creates in the capital markets and so on and so forth. So I am definitely watching that and looking to see how that may impact us through the end of the year and product strategy around that.
Arjun, what are you looking forward to?
I think a lot of, there's a lot, will be and continue to be a lot of consolidation within these markets of, smaller shops joining with larger shops, smaller shops sadly going away, whatever it might be. So we're watching for a lot of that, because our company has done or has experienced a lot of growth in just this metric, but also continuing to watch, being here in the Bay Area, the fintech disruption and what's actually coming and how it's impacting mortgage, how it's impacting origination, how it's impacting operations and management, and what that's going to do to expedite things AI is certainly a hot topic, of course, which I know will get discussed at HousingWire. And so, yeah, that's what I'm most interested in and continuing to watch, because I'm fascinated by that disruption, ultimately what comes in the aftermath of it, and how those of us that adopt it, embrace it, actually are able to thrive going forward. So it's going to be a very exciting end of this year, and heading into next year, even more exciting.
Yeah, you three touched on really good things. That to each of your point, we're going to discuss more at HousingWire Annual, and just I'll kind of touch on a preview for each of them. So Kate is joining us on a how to address affordability through product conversation at HousingWire Annual. Her and I will be leading a fireside chat, digging more into that. Kate, anything you want to quickly add there?
No, I'm really looking forward to it and having conversations about how we can reframe that conversation and make products work for you.
Yeah, that's great. And then Arjun is joining us on day one of the conference. We have in the past had the Women of Influence Forum and the Marketing Leader Success Summit, kind of these separate tracks. And this year, just so everyone's aware, we really have them as sessions within the lineup. So everyone's welcome to the room. We want the knowledge too, and it does apply to all of our attendees. And so Arjun's digging into really what he just said, which is how to take data and disseminate it and move forward, and really harnessing that. And I'm sure there'll be even more to come in October. So Arjun, is there anything else you'd want to add for your session?
No, well, first of all, I'm excited for Kate's session with you. That is going to be a very exciting one. And I'm just, I'm excited to share with originators and team leaders and people that are connected to the originator arm of their company, how this information can get taken. I'm going to actually give real examples of how I've created pieces of content that started from listening to a HousingWire podcast or from reading a HousingWire Plus article. And then what did we do? What were the steps to break this thing down and make it engaging, entertaining, informational enough, and maintaining its data integrity, so that the marketplace can absorb it. And I think if originators can start to make that shift, it'll be a very exciting and profitable time for them, those that choose to embrace it. So I'm really excited to share that with everyone.
Yeah. It's like you're really going into here's how to lead that classroom. But my transition for this is step one is we all need to sit in that classroom and have the lecturer talk to us, which is Logan, our own keynote, kicking us off at HousingWire Annual. So as we sit in the lecture hall, listen to probably one of the most exciting professors that any of us will ever have. His title is Making Sense of the Wild Housing Data. Logan, give us your kind of preview of your keynote.
When I go on the Logan tour, what happens is the information I give to people are very basic, but the way I show the charts is so understandable that everyone will have a complete understanding of what's going on, not only in the economy, but specifically in the housing market. And every single time I've done one of these tours, people go, I can talk to my clients so much easier now, or my clients aren't afraid of 2008 anymore. And oh my God, those YouTube people really are crazy. So that's my job. And the presentation is designed to take a complex subject to simplify it, but make it to where you can really explain, not to your coworkers, not just to your family members, but to your clients as well. So you can grow yourself and you can be someone of knowledge and comfort, right? And that's my experience over the last 18 months of going on these live events, is that people are just wowed about, wow, I did not know this. I did not know that. Wow, this was really helpful. I wish somebody would have told me this 2 years ago. And you'll understand it so you can explain it to your coworkers or clients in an easier fashion.
That's huge. And I think that's something we all really need. Well, 4 quick things as we wrap up that I wanted to share, and then I'll let everyone kind of go back into their days in the housing industry. So first thing I wanted to say is I kicked off this virtual event teasing a discount. We dropped a resource in the resource center to join us in Austin. In there, we have a 1 day only for today discount code for everyone using webinar exclusive. So feel free to drop in there and you'll get your exclusive discount code just for 1 day. The second thing I wanted to say is we will be having a copy of this recording to all attendees after the fact. So like I said, if you have to jump off earlier, if you want to share it with other people, feel free to view it there. The third thing I wanted to say is be sure this is the first of a 3-part series. So our next one is coming up on August 21st at 1 p.m. Central Time. That one focuses on leadership mindset. We'll have Tyler Hodgson, who's the EVP of Growth at U Mortgage, Sarah Gonzalez, who's the president and COO at Panorama Mortgage Group, and then Jay Frisco, who's the chief production officer over at Sierra Pacific Mortgage. So join us for the next one coming up on August 21st. And then the third one will be on September 6th. More to come on that one. And then the fourth final one, I think I tried to save the best for last, which is a thank you to our attendees and especially our panelists. I know you guys are giving us your time at HousingWire Annual to share your insights, your wisdom. So Kate, Arjun, Logan, to wrap us up, thank you so much for each of you joining us today.
My pleasure.
My pleasure as well.
Amazing.
Thanks. Have a great day, everyone.